thank you.
Started? Oh yeah,
Yeah.
By the way, I'm recording this. Is everyone comfortable with that? Or I don't have to record it because I'll do another one anyway.
Yeah, we're good.
Shall I change?
You'll change?
Yes, put my suit on.
Get a big hat on or something.
Marketing purpose. My rainbow headphones and stuff. No, that's cool. Yeah.
Okay. You guys can see the slide, yes?
Yep.
Yes. Okay, cool. Let's get started. Just the quick Zoom things in case anyone is not too familiar with Zoom. When it's presenting, there's the thing. I think there's too few of us to see the grid option. But in the little hanging window, you can change the ways you want to see it if you want to hide all the faces. So that you can do it. You can also change to like side-by-side mode, I think, which puts the videos up the top like that if you want it. Maybe I'll put this over here so it looks more like I'm talking to you. Yeah, so there's that. And also, can we just check that you can all, oh no, wait, hang on. Why is my screen sharing paused? What's happened? No, hang on, sorry. I think it's because I moved it to the other screen and it got angry with me. This one, yes. Yes, you can see it again, yes?
Yep.
So can we just check that you can all use the reactions, because I may or may not use them, get you to use the reactions to signify things. So Sitar has done the little thumbs up.
Yeah.
The rest of you, Jorge, Sam, Jorge, do you know where the reactions are? Yes.
Yeah.
Do you want to do the thumbs up? Yay, okay, cool. There's not too many of us, so you don't have to worry too much about the muting, I think, because like, it's not likely, but just in case there's background noise as well, it makes sense to mute yourself when you're not talking. Make sure you have something to take notes with, a pen and paper, or however you like to take notes. I'm not going to dictate what's right for you. And I recommend to put your phone on Do Not Disturb and close your web browser, because distractions are bad and you will end up not absorbing as much. And I think I found personally that I never took this advice before. And then when I started doing it, I was like, oh, okay, I've gotten more out of those presentations, so it makes sense. So I'm trialing a thing with this one where before we start, let's get into like a bit more of a learning mindset. So let's all just like take 3 long, deep breaths together, and I'll guide you through them. Is Sam, are you there? Okay, well, we'll do this without Sam.
She's looking for a notepad.
I can't hear what
She's looking for a notepad.
Oh, I see, okay.
Not prepared.
Oh, it did this again.
All right, okay. Sorry.
I'm just gonna go back to this. Oh, what's happening? Okay. Yes. So let's take 3 long breaths. So breathe in and breathe out. Again, breathe in and breathe out. And one last time, breathe in and breathe out. So this kind of settles our mind a little bit from the racing day. And now we are going to get into learning mode though. So while that kind of relaxes the mind a little bit, we want this kind of dual mind process where we're both energized and clear. Right? And so the breathing clears our mind, but power poses are going to energize us to get ready to learn. So you can see on the screen, there are a few different power poses. Obviously, don't do the low power poses. You'll have low energy. So you can either stand up with a wide stance, you can raise your arms above your head, or you can put your hands on your hips, and or you can put the hands behind your head and cross your legs if you're sitting down. This is the very powerful CEO pose. So just do that for like 30 seconds, one of the poses, any of the poses, choose one. and do it for 30 seconds. And there's actually a TED talk on this, on how there are actual like chemical changes in our bodies that make us feel more confident, feel more powerful. It's recommended to do it before you get on to do a public speaking thing, or when you're about to go into an interview. It just adds a little bit of energy to your brain and makes you more attentive and more engaged. So I thought it's a nice way to start and get us all ready to go. Okay, are we ready? Are we in power? Yes. Okay, so let's do some introductions. So I got you ready to present yourselves. So when you present yourself, can you say who you are, what it is you do, and what kind of advertising platforms that you're using or thinking about using? And also, I'll add another dot on when I do this later, but can you choose someone else to speak after you're done speaking? So I'll kind of start us off. Just in case you don't know who I am, I'm DJ, and I do freelance marketing for businesses that are values-led and are doing something good for the world. And I am currently using, I did some advertising on Facebook and LinkedIn, but other than that, I'm not really paying for advertising yet because I'm still freelance and trying to afford things. Next, I'll choose Sam to speak next.
Hi, I'm Sam. I'm living in Cairns, Australia right now, so it's nighttime. I work in tourism and hospitality. I'm currently working at Southern Cross Atrium Apartments, which are self-contained holiday apartments in Cairns. I do a lot of their social media and a lot of guest relations and reservations. And I've only just started taking over their Facebook and their Instagram and just getting to know a bit of Canva and MailChimp for the up and coming new website, which DJ is helping with the SEO and the writing and the content. And that's about it.
Choose someone else to speak, Sam.
Tara?
Hi. I'm Tara. I am currently in London, so same time zone as DJ. I am on a career break, although it's been a very long career break, so I'm probably just unemployed now. But back in the day, or one of my previous incarnations was I used to work in e-commerce and web development. So I'm kind of familiar with the concepts, but it is so long ago, it would really be good to kind of brush up on it, especially because I've just started helping out a local company, a local startup, started about 8 weeks ago, which is a mobile zero waste shop. And so she's looking to kind of expand exposure. So it'd be really good just to kind of brush up on this kind of stuff and kind of pass on to her and get her up and running. And currently most of her kind of outreach is via Instagram, which I don't really know that much about. I was more kind of, again, sort of, because it was a few years ago, it was more kind of traditional sort of web sort of centric sort of advertising and things. So it'd be great to kind of get a little bit up to speed with the more social media related platforms. And I will choose Jorge.
Thank you, Tara. I just want to mention a technical glitch when Sam was speaking. It might be my internet connection that it's saying it's unstable. So some of your intervention was garbled. I couldn't understand it very well, and sorry about that. So it might happen. I don't know if you hear me well. If you don't, just let me know. I'm also identify with Tara in that I'm not really taking a break, but I'm rethinking what I want to do next. I worked along DJ in a group of companies 6 months ago or so, and I'm erring towards learning and development kind of initiatives, but I'm also sitting on a wealth of talents, and I would like to learn really for once and all, how to monetize that in terms of training, language training that I do even deliver myself, in terms of career guidance and advice, in terms of creative writing, also of late, also visual arts, and drawing a lot, and it seems to be going well. So too many talents and a little money. Any advert online at the moment, but I believe I might have to create relevant websites. That again is a different consultation altogether as to how to capitalize on those things, and then what kind of advertising I will need. So it's early days, but I realize I've been avoiding the issue for long, and even sneering at kind of like intellectual being that, marketing is for those people who try to make money.
Looks like we lost Jorge. Gina, do you want to go then?
Yeah, I couldn't really understand him either. It's a really bad connection. Sounded interesting though. Hi everyone, I'm Gina. I'm a circus performer and facilitator, children's educator. And me and my partner.
Hello.
Hi Jorge, you're back. Jorge, can you hear us? No. Okay, I'll message Jorge separately.
Maybe it turned.
Hi guys, I don't know if I said, is it something I said that I got disconnected? Hello.
Hi Jorge, your connection's real bad, Jorge.
Yes, it is. I wonder what to do about it. I don't know if I should reboot or.
Do you have anything else
Turn your
open?
camera off.
Yeah, you could try turning off your video.
Not no. Okay. What a pity.
This is 2020.
Also, Ben's really shy, so he's like literally just sitting off, but he doesn't want to be in the camera.
Sure, no problem.
I cannot stay in place, so I tend to be distracting in meetings. So I prefer to sit off camera. That's it.
Okay, Gina, do you want to continue? I'll text Jorge separately.
Yeah, I'm a circus performer and children's educator, facilitator. Myself and my partner Jamie are looking to launch a social enterprise project where we are giving circus education mixed with kind of English language speaking to people who can afford it in England, festivals, UK kind of care centres. We specialise with disability, kind of all age range and age groups, and then taking the profits from that and delivering it to people who really can't afford it. So we've done quite a lot of work with refugee groups, going out to different countries and working in India. I work with a charity called Performers Without Borders. We go over there 6 months a year and kind of deliver workshops and education and shows to like slum kids and the really, really kind of vulnerable communities. So I guess we are trying to launch our new social enterprise project around that. So I'm looking at how best to advertise ourselves via like website design, development, that kind of thing, Instagram, Facebook, just any kind of tips and hints and good stuff and all that knowledge that DJ has, which would be really good. Yeah, I think that's us. I probably missed stuff, but yeah.
Awesome, thanks so much. Jorge said he's rebooting and switching to his phone to 4G, so he might return. Cool, that sounds like a good mix. So just to also preface from a lot of what you guys are saying, this workshop will focus largely on like paid advertising, but there'll still be a lot for all of you to get from it, I'm sure. So this is just a quick summary of the things I'm going to cover, and it looks like a lot, and that's because it is a lot. I've kind of squeezed a lot into this presentation because it was kind of asked to be optimizing paid advertising, and it's a huge thing to talk about. So I'll start by kind of establishing at least how I separate out paid from organic in this context, and how we're focusing on paid and not organic. And then I'll talk about the kind of stuff you need to have set up in your business before you ever start paying for ads. And this is really important, because if you start paying for ads first, then you're going to be wasting money. We're going to talk about the kind of metrics that are used to measure success in marketing, and we'll talk about the bidding system, which is the system that most paid platforms use to determine how much your ads will cost. And then following on from that, it makes sense to start talking about how you determine, because usually the first question that people ask is like, how much do I need to spend on blah, blah platform? And usually that's how long is a piece of string, but there is a way to kind of measure, to figure that out for your business. And I'll go through that. And then we'll take a little break after that. So those kind of first 5 points are kind of the first hour. And then the second bit, I'll go through the different types of paid advertising and all the subtypes. And these are the subtypes that I've identified. There are so many more. And the thing is, any marketer that tells you they can do everything is wrong, is lying to you, selling snake oil. And for me, my expertise has been in Google Ads. So that Google Ads will be where I am the most in depth. But I will go through all the different types, and we'll have an opportunity for you to ask me what I do know about the other types. And then, but then we'll deep dive into Google Ads. Okay?
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry about that.
No worries. Did you want to finish your introduction at all?
I think it was, punctuated by internet, so we can move on now.
If at any point I'm sounding garbled or whatever because of your connection, try turning off your video. It might improve it.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, so let's jump. Oh, well, just quickly for you, Jorge, I just went through all of the stuff that I'm going to be doing during this, and how there's quite a lot, and but I won't go through it again. Okay. But yeah, it's fine. You'll pick it up because I'm going to go through it. So organic versus paid. Yeah. So we're going to play a little game. We're going to play, is it organic or is it paid? I was trying to do it in the deal or no deal style, and then I just couldn't. I was like, why am I wasting time creating a graphic for one slide? So we're going to play a guessing game. We're going to go through all of the ones at the top, and I want you guys to tell me. So we'll use the reactions here to make it easier, so instead of shouting out. So maybe we have like a thumbs up and a clap icon, right? So use the thumb icon if you think it's organic, and use the clap icon if you think it's paid. Okay, so let's go with affiliate advertising, organic or paid? We got paid, and Jorge.
Paid.
Oh, you think it's organic? Oh, we got it to center. It is paid. No. Or did you select the wrong one, Jorge?
Yeah, that's the wrong one.
Okay, maybe next time I'll do a trial run for that one. Okay, so Amazon ads, organic or paid? So clap for paid, thumbs up for organic. Yeah, we got it right. It's paid. I guess that was an easy one. Blogging, organic or paid? We got organic. Organic. Yeah, we're right. Guest posting. And yeah. So you were all sticking with the thumbs, and yes, we are correct. It is still organic. Social media posting. Organic. It is organic. Social media ads. Paid. Yes. Okay. You guys are experts already. You don't even need this workshop. Facebook groups.
No, we don't.
Organic. Yes. Google or Bing ads. Yeah, paid. We're correct. Being interviewed on podcasts. Organic. Yes. Hosting webinar, where you might like have to pay for things. Yes. Oh, we've got confusion. And I would consider this organic. And the reason I would consider it organic is that even though you might need to pay for the software and everything to set it up, generally you're not paying to put it out there, right? So but I think that, oh shit, I did that one too fast. Well, I gave you that one for free. And direct selling on your website. And again, I would consider this organic because even though you've paid to set up your website and everything, the traffic coming there, you're not paying for each of the traffic. So the main distinction that I have for this is that I would consider it paid traffic if you're paying for the traffic that's coming in, right? So, and it's usually it comes with a whole lot of data around it, and generally you wouldn't want to be doing a paid platform if they don't give you data. But that's not to say that the organic stuff doesn't cost money, like the email marketing, the hosting webinars, all of these things, they cost money to set up because there's platforms and stuff you need to pay for. But you're not paying for the actual traffic, so you're not paying for clicks and views and stuff like that. Right. So and that's the point I make on this slide, is that all forms of marketing come at a cost. And with the email marketing and the hosting webinars, it becomes a bit clearer that there is a monetary cost, but every single form of marketing comes at a time cost. And it's really important that you have that mindset around marketing, because I think a lot of the time marketing is sold as like, oh, you can do this stuff and it's completely free, but it's also you as a business owner or a marketing manager, whoever you are, will be spending time on that, and your time is valuable in some way or another to the business. So you need to also remember that there is that cost. And so when you're trying to figure out whether you do an organic or paid channel, you need to also identify how much your time is worth and how much time you're spending on the organic strategy, and whether it's worth it to do that organic strategy. Even though there's no monetary cost, is the time you're putting into it worth it? And that doesn't mean you necessarily go after a paid channel. All it means is that when you choose wisely which organic channels you're using, because there will be different time commitments. So some big key like result-based differences of organic and paid is that organic usually results in higher quality leads. And the reason for that is that if they've found you by some sort of algorithm or word of mouth, or found you because you've done some really good content, then they're already being sold on what you're doing. You're not getting in front of them when they haven't been sold to yet. So it's like they're warmer leads is the kind of marketing lingo. And then, but the good thing about paid channels is that they usually produce predictable leads. So the problem with organic is everything's a little bit fuzzy. You don't have that data to know clearly whether it's working or not. While paid, you'll have so much data that you'll be able to almost overanalyze where they're coming from, and much more easily turn on a tap for leads when you need it. And so you can see automatically from that result-based thing that actually paid makes more sense when you're a bit further along, because you know that you need more leads and you need them right now, right? While organic makes sense as a longer term strategy, right? So organic gives you that long-term stability, because once you've got an organic channel working, it's usually quite difficult to make it stop working, right? As long as you've built it in like a what they call a white hat way, right? Rather than black hat. And those two terms mean that like white hat is the way you're doing things essentially ethically, right? You're doing things as the platform wants you to do it, while black hat is where you're tricking algorithms to try and get you more traffic. So if you do everything on the up and up, then you'll have a good, solid, long-term thing that continues producing leads. But what paid usually helps with, while it's very quick win and short term, what is really good for is testing. So you can test lots of different messages or different channels. Like you could even like use the paid advertising to test whether a social media platform has the people you want on it, right? But that all requires a whole lot of very careful wording in your ads, but they are very, very effective for very quickly pushing things out there to test results. And so when it comes to organic and you decide you want to do organic, I think that the key takeaway for me when studying organic channels is that the only way to make it succeed is to build community. And there's a marketing adage that's like, people come for your content, but stay for the community, right? And so you need to build that community if you want it to be long-term, right? A long-term organic strategy. But that's not to say also that like the way I've phrased this the whole time has kind of been organic versus paid as like two separate things, but it doesn't have to be like you choose one or the other. Your paid advertising can very much augment that building of that community by helping you kickstart the community by finding people quickly, but also giving you better data to understand that community and what they want, because you're getting better data by using the paid platforms, right? So before I go on to marketing funnels, does anyone have any questions about the organic versus paid stuff? Anything that I said that needs clarifying? Okay, cool. So marketing funnels. So this is the second point I was talking about, where what is really, really important before you start doing paid advertising in particular, but really any sort of marketing, I think, is that you need to make sure that you've got stuff set up in your business to move people down the funnel. There's this quote, and I have no idea who said it. I'm sure it's someone important. That the fortune is in the follow-up, right? And so it's you will make money by making sure that you follow up with people, because people need follow-ups. If anyone's ever worked in an office, you know that sending one email barely gets you results. You have to keep sending it because people are annoying and they won't respond until you annoy them. So there's the very, very basic marketing concept. This is nothing new or revolutionary. This is marketing from, you know, the 70s, right? It's that there is a funnel that people go through. They start at the top with the awareness, and they come down, and then they consider you against other people, and then conversion is when they convert to your product, they buy something, and then loyalty is where they stay with you and they buy from you again, and advocacy is where they recommend other people. So I've kind of put some examples at each stage of the funnel here, so that at the awareness stage, you're kind of like, they might read some blogs, they might click on some ads, they might sign up for a mailing list, and you can see how there's a mix of paid and organic there. And at the consideration stage, they might then, you know, be checking that they align with your values. They might be reading articles to compare you against competitors. And they might also, you know, this is where things like Facebook chat, live chat on your website and stuff might come in with the consideration, because they're starting to interact with you. They might send you an email. This is where you'll have indicators that they've moved down from just understanding who you are to actually considering you buying your product. Then you come down to the conversion. So this is where your salespeople will come into play, where they'll actually recognize that you are the one that they want to buy from. So they actually purchase, then they buy from you a second time. And advocacy is one that people often forget to actually make a part of their marketing and their content strategy, and that leaving a review and telling other people about you. And this is the key stage for organic, I think, is that making sure that you've got these systems in place to maintain that community and get that community to spread itself. So it's really important to have these funnels set up. And these stages of your business, like something happening at each stage of this funnel within your business. And it can be things as simple as we publish a blog post, or you know, we answer the phone every day. You know, these are the simple things. So especially at like the early stages in your business, you might not have very complex funnels or very complicated things you're doing, or very strong things you're doing, but you need to have something at every stage, otherwise you're not selling anything. And you probably already have them. And so what I wanted to do here as an exercise was to just spend 10 minutes going through each of these stages and like taking a look at if you were going to consider paid online advertising for what you're doing, map out how it fits into a funnel in your business. It doesn't have to be everything you do in your business on those stages, but let's say, so I'll take Sam as an example just because I know the business. So Southern Cross Atrium Apartments, let's say they're like, okay, if we wanted to start doing Facebook ads, what would we need at every stage of this funnel, right? The Facebook ads would probably become awareness, right? That's where they would sit in this funnel. And then we'd need to make sure that from the ad, they're taken to a decent landing page. That's the consideration stage. The conversion is like when there needs to be a thing on that page where they can book easily. There needs to be a phone number because old people like to use the phone better. And we need to make sure that we're answering all of those calls. And then for the loyalty, it'll be like when they've booked, make sure that we've got their, their details to ask them to book again on their next holiday. And the advocacy would be, giving them a deal for their friend or whatever, right? So let's just take 10 minutes to kind of write those out. And then after we're done with that, if any of you want to share what you've done and maybe ask questions about your funnel, or like you're confused about different stages, then we can do that as well.
Could you go back to the slide before?
Yes, sure.
I was trying to copy stuff. I'm a bit of a slow writer.
I can send you the slides after this as well if you want.
Yeah, that'll be great. Mm.
Now I get to take a break, yeah. And maybe just so we're not sitting here for ages, if and when you're done, you can put a little reaction on there just to let me know that you're done. So then if everyone's done before 10 minutes, we can end earlier. Obviously take your time.
Going to adopt a CEO post. Oh. What do you have to offer? Let's hear your ideas. I'm paying you good money for this, so you should better come up with something intelligent.
I will try. With all that money you're giving me.
Yes.
also, if you feel like you're struggling with figuring this out, don't worry. We're gonna actually come back to this at the end when I think you might have a better idea of things. And so don't worry if you feel like it doesn't make sense to you at the moment, or you can't come up with the ideas. God, 10 minutes can feel like a long time. Oh yeah, that's probably a better way to do it, isn't it, Tara? Get them to send me done on the chat. Okay, we'll give it 2 more minutes and then we'll report back. Okay, cool. It looks like everyone's done now. So does anyone feel like talking about their funnel or want to ask me questions? Or you can just talk through your funnel if you don't want to ask any questions, just to share it with the group. Or yeah, Jorge, go ahead.
Yeah, I think because it's at the early stages, I'm really interested in a lot of things about the awareness stage or point. When you decide, when you make the early decision as to offering a product or service, I think awareness is really important, and to understand what the possible reach. So I would like advertising to increase the potential reach of what I try. Now, how do you measure? I mean, I'm stuck in awareness. Your potential market. I mean, let's say, let's suppose I offer, Mandarin Chinese training. Who is interested in Mandarin Chinese? How many people at this point, I don't know, globally, because you can offer it globally, are interested in that product or service?
Yeah.
That's what I think my questions would start at that stage, because that's where you start. Is there really a point in offering this service or product to a potential market? Who is my potential market? Even before you understand who your competitors are. So what kind of search goes into that? I don't know if it is pertinent to this funnel or not. You let me know.
Yeah, so that's really important, and that's kind of like, you know, that first workshop that I did that you were at,
Yeah.
where I talk about how we need to start the start of any marketing strategy is identifying your target person. And so and that's the thing that's I'm really glad you brought that up, because that's why I've put this into this presentation, is that you cannot start paid advertising unless you are really clear about your target person, your USP, and then like paid advertising is step 3 of
all of that.
the content marketing strategy, right? It's the choosing of the channels, the choosing of the target person and the USP needs to happen first. And you're right, because you'll get stuck straight away as you get into the funnel if you don't know who that target person is. And you'll get stuck as soon as you start paid advertising, because with almost all paid advertising, you need to know who you're targeting. And if you don't know who you're targeting, you are going to waste money, like 100%. So yeah, that's a really good point. You need, so what, and when you've got your target person though, like I've just said, most of the paid advertising platforms will have ways for you to choose that, but different platforms will have different audiences. So you also need to choose the right platform that has the right audience and has the ability to target that audience in the way that you need, right? So we'll get into that a little more later.
Okay.
Does anyone else want to talk about their funnel? Or we're happy to go on? Okay, well, happy to go on. If you do want to talk about anything, because there's a few of us, you can just unmute yourself and say. So I hope that that's established now that you need to really think about the things that you need to set up in your business beforehand. But let's say you've now gotten down to that step you want to go for paid marketing. How is it that we measure success? And this kind of also is relevant to what you were saying, Jorge, about measuring reach, right? So when it comes to organic stuff, you're generally you aren't paying for the traffic, right? I say for anything, but you know, you're not paying for the traffic, and so the data isn't really super clear, and so when you're to measure success, you're usually using metrics that you can measure to infer information about the where they've come from or which of your channels are working. So you've got these traffic metrics, so the views, impression, clicks, average time on page view. These are things you can usually get from Google Analytics. You can usually get from the analytics within within another platform, but it's usually, when it comes to organic, it's usually from Google Analytics that you're pulling this stuff out of. And you'll see that views, clicks, and average time. So views and clicks are kind of like steps of the funnel, right? Views kind of like the awareness, they've seen it, and then the click is they've taken that next step to consider it, right? The average time on page and the view time, what that will tell you is like how long someone has spent on the website, right? So then you're also establishing how successful your page has been to capture that attention, right? And that can be at awareness or consideration stage, really. But then you've also got the conversion metrics, which will then measure how far you're pushing them down that funnel with your organic channel. So the opens or the clicks, you know, are conversion metrics. Like, and so opens might be opens of a email, right? So your number compared to the number sent, how many people opened it, and then you've got conversions. So this is kind of a wide thing, and it's hard to say what conversions they are without looking at your actual funnel. So a conversion might be filling out a form, might be signing up for an event, might be like actually just leaving their email address with you or whatever, right? And then page depth is another conversion metric, because maybe people land on your website and then they look at multiple pages on your website. That is an indicator that they've stayed interested, right? So but when it comes to paid metrics, you've usually got money on the line, and so you're not really, like, while those organic metrics are still important in paid, right? So I just want to establish that those metrics are not just organic, they're also relevant in paid, but you've got more metrics in paid, right? And the ones that are kind of more important with paid is the cost per metrics, right? Or your return on investment metrics, basically. So the click-through rate is basically the rate at which people click. So it's kind of the views to clicks, right? And that rate is really important. And you'll see why when I start talking about the bidding system. And then you've got cost per click and you've got cost per conversion, which is pretty clear. It's like, how much are you paying for each click? How much are you paying to get the conversions that you've set up on the platform? And ultimately, you're looking for the return on ad spend, right? But I think what's also really important here is that these metrics are for like that individual campaign at that time. But as you'll see in a second when we talk about how to determine how much ad spend you should have, it gets a little more complicated than that individual campaign, because you also need to look at the whole lifetime. But before we move on to actually understanding the how much you need to do ad spend, we do need to talk about the bidding system a little bit, because you need to have this foundational knowledge of how this is calculated, so that you can understand where you might end up wasting money. Because if you don't understand this and you just kind of throw money at it, you almost will certainly lose money. So and this is quite a complicated thing to wrap your head around if you're not like doing it day to day. So I found this image on WordStream, which summarizes it quite well. So we're looking at that green, the green equation there, right? And so the max bid is how much you're going to say that you want to pay, the maximum you want to pay for an ad, like the maximum amount that you want to pay for a click, right, on that ad, right? And it's basically how much you can afford to pay for that click. And then the quality score is how relevant the ad is to your to the way the algorithm thinks your ad is relevant to the audience. And I think I haven't put the image of this there for what quality score has a very clear way of calculating, and it's based on the landing page experience. It's based on the click-through rate, which is what I just said was going to be important, and why it's a cost per metric, because the click-through rate will directly affect the quality score, because it's using the click-through rate to infer whether this ad is relevant to the people, right? But then the landing page experience also involves like identifying the keywords on that page and stuff like that. And so this quality score can get a little bit blurry, right? But the point is, the main takeaway you need to take from the fact that the quality score is in this equation is that it matters that your ad is relevant to your page, right? And that your ad is relevant to the audience you're targeting. And then the bid times the quality score is what gives you your ad rank, and that's essentially how it's determining where you sit in the competition in the bid, in the auction between the different advertisers. And the position is like the position at which your ad appears, right? And so you can see with this, they've kind of given you an example of how which ones get first, second, and third. But then the thing to notice here about the quality score and why I'm overemphasizing it is that you can see here with advertiser 1 is actually paying less for the ad, because the advertiser 2 has such a bad quality score. It's even though he's bidding higher, and then he's like paying so much more than advertiser 1, even though it's kind of so in this diagram, it's essentially for the same keyword, right? So they're advertising to the same people for the same keyword, and advertiser 1 is paying more just because his ad is better, even though he bid less than the advertiser 2. Advertiser 2 is saying, I'm going to pay £4. You'd think, oh, if I'm going to pay £4, then I'm going to be on the top of the ranks. But he's not, because his ad is so shit, right? So that's, and so this is kind of like very technical. It gets very mathematical, so it's easy to get lost in it. So I just want to kind of make sure that you've got the main takeaways from this is that make sure that you have high quality ads, because otherwise you will be paying too much for them. And that when you go into the advertising world, don't just assume that adding more money to it is going to get you more results. The quality really matters, and in a real world and perhaps anecdotal way, I found this so often with the accounts we were managing for the clients in my old job, in that there were times when it was like, oh, this is working, we're getting results we want, let's add budget. We add budget, but it doesn't actually do anything because the ads aren't getting any better, you know, and so you're not actually able to spend more money on a thing that's not actually any better. So I realize that's gets a bit technical. Is that okay? Are you guys following me? Are there any questions? No? Good. Okay, cool. So let's move on to calculating how much you actually need to spend, right? But that's the wrong question. You shouldn't be asking how much you need to spend. It needs to be how much can you afford to spend on your ads, right? And that's really the more pertinent question when it comes to advertising, because there's the how much you need to spend is as much as you can, really. That's the answer to that. And so now you need to figure out what it is you can actually afford within your business before it starts becoming unprofitable to do that advertising. So there's a simple formula for what we call a cost per acquisition, right? So it's the amount that you can pay to acquire a lead, acquire a sale. Right? So you've got the number of clicks times the lead conversion rate. And the lead conversion rate means what percentage of the clicks that you're getting to turn into leads, right? So you will, if you haven't done any kind of marketing at all yet, you might have to estimate these conversion rates, right? Based on what you think is most likely to happen. If you have some sort of marketing set up at the moment, you've got some sort of Google Analytics, you can probably get an idea of this by taking a look at the number of visitors to the page, and then the number of those visitors that have become leads along your funnel, right? This is why, again, it's so important that you've got that funnel set up so that you know what are leads and what are sales, you know, and like where a lead will be someone who's converted from awareness to consideration, right? They're in your funnel now, and then the sale is obviously once they've come down to the conversion stage. So the sale conversion rate is obviously the percentage of those leads that end up becoming actual customers, like paying customers. So you can think of the leads as people who have started a conversation with, and the sales, the people who have actually opened their wallets and started paying for something, right? And this is obviously a very simple equation. It would get complex when you've got more products, when you've got different priced products, when you've got different stages of your funnel. So sometimes a lead might have paid for something, but they're paid for a very low priced product. And so they're actually further up in the funnel. And so you might need to add extra steps to this, but this is the simplest form, right? So this equation is very, very important for everyone who wants to consider marketing to understand at any level. Whether you're at the highest level or you're at the ground level, everyone needs to understand this equation because it is the most important part of marketing because you need the money to make the marketing work. So let's take an example. You've got 50 clicks, you've got a 10% conversion rate. So that means you've got 5 leads. And then the 20% sales conversion rate means that you get 1 sale. So this is essentially, I've obviously used very simple numbers here to make it easy to understand. But now we need to understand how much we can spend for that, right? So what we need to first, what needs to become a thing that you understand in your business is how much can you pay for 1 customer, right? And you can usually work this out by looking at how much your average customer spend is, right? And that sort of thing. But let's say and I'll talk about that in a second a bit more. But let's say in this example, so I'm just working backwards now. So if we say we've got that 1 customer, £1,000 that customer spends with us is the amount of margin that we can use on marketing, right? And so then doing a 20% of that means that you've got £200 is what you can pay per lead, right? So so actually I think that might need to be divided by 20%. So I'll just change those symbols in it, because it would be 1,000 divided by 1,000%.
No, it's times by.
Is it?
Yeah, 1,000 times basically 0.2 is 200.
Right, yes. So what? Oh, yes, okay. Maths. I swear I did a physics degree, and I don't know what happened to my maths. But yes, so you've got £200 for each lead is what you can pay for each lead. And then 10% of that is, so you can pay £5 for a click. So now you've identified here that £5 is the maximum that you can pay for a click. So there's your maximum cost per click. That's your bid. Right, that's what you can put as a bid, because you know that that's the maximum you can pay. Right, so but this, how much you can pay for a customer, is kind of the important thinking part that needs to happen for your business. And yeah, so it can get more complicated, and I don't want to go into all of the mathematics of that. But basically, you need to not just identify, like, where you can trip up on this is that you look at one individual customer, one individual purchase, and look at the margin on that product, and then be like, there's no money left for marketing, right? But you need to also remember that so in the funnel, there's that loyalty stage, and the loyalty stage means repeat purchases. And so a customer's value is not just that first purchase, it's every other purchase that you're going to get them to do following. So it's what they call lifetime value. And so you need to use, when you're at this, doing this calculation, you need to use the lifetime value there, not just the value of a single purchase. Otherwise, it'll always look like there's never enough money. Which, I mean, there never is enough money. But so I thought this would be a good point now after, no, actually that's fine. So yeah, so let's this is a little puppy as a reward for getting through all the maths, because I feel like I need a reward after getting through all the maths. And it's also a good time for any questions on that part. This is basically the middle point of the thing. So I'm bang on time, yes. So all of the stuff beforehand is basically all of the foundational work for understanding paid online advertising. What we're going to move into next is the actual types, and talking maybe a bit more tactically rather than strategically, talking about the actual things that happen on those platforms. So do you have questions about what we've talked about so far? Yes, Tara, go ahead. Yeah,
so I guess what I am thinking about at the moment is that the completely understand sort of using the data that you've got to basically infer, for example, your cost, the amount of money that you can spend. This is great if you've got an established business, but if you've got a startup and you want to maybe use your you want to use some advertising to kind of get exposure for sort of like, to build up a customer base. I'm just wondering how you go about that, because you have very little data to kind of like, to base it on. Therefore, kind of, is there a, like a rough idea as to, or is it just basically a case of like, just give it a go and then kind of just adjust to see how successful that becomes in terms of conversion?
Yeah, it's very much more often the latter rather than anything, where you just give it a go. You end up seeing what the cost per click is for the ads you've written, and have to really monitor it very closely as you go along if you have no data to use beforehand. But often when you're in startup stage and you're trying to get the word out, you should probably have a budget in mind that you've put aside as, this is the money I need to spend on marketing, right? So then you're kind of budgeting according to that, and you've determined that, and those are often very arbitrary numbers. They're just based on what you've got and how much you can afford to do it. And so this is where often, like when you're very much at startup stage, paid advertising is very unlikely to be useful because you don't have the budget to waste. You know, you don't know, and when you're in that stage where you're like, you don't have any data and you're just kind of trying it and you're trying to do an awareness campaign, that has to be budget that you're willing to spend, not budget that you're willing to get a return on, because you're not going to get a return on that first bit, right? And so, and one of the things, and I'll probably say this a bit more when we get into the deep Google Ads bit, but it's all the time that when we were saying to a client to start Google Ads, you have to be willing to throw away at least 3 months worth of your budget to just understand whether this platform is working for you and adjusting it to make it work for you. So you kind of have to be prepared for that. But the good thing about it is that there's no like, there are some minimums on platforms, but they're usually very, very low. So you can try something for an amount that's going to be rather insignificant to you at the moment, regardless of your size. That was one of the big benefits of Facebook ads when it first came out, was that it really leveled the playing field in terms of advertising. I would argue ethically now it's changed a lot in that, like, Facebook ads are so freaking complicated that it's no longer accessible to the smallest business without it being ineffective, which I think, well, that's a whole other discussion, which we will get into. But yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, it basically kind of confirmed what I suspected, really. Yeah, I guess I'm just thinking in terms of the business that I'm currently kind of giving a hand to, how to kind of frame this in terms of you know, how to kind of basically work out how to measure how effective it is. But yeah.
Well,
sorry, that was kind of very much a case of talking.
There will be ways to do it though, and like the thing is, even if you don't have data, you do have estimates of your lead conversion rate and your sales conversion rate. So you can, and then you'll have an estimate of the amount that a sale brings in. So you can still do that calculation without having exact data, and you can estimate it. So then, you know, kind of, this is the kind of maximum bid we kind of want to go for. And then so then you when you're on the platform, you know that if the bid is like double that, like the amount you're paying per click is double that this platform is not viable for you at the moment, right?
Yeah, the answers are there, all in the data.
Yeah. Cool. Does anyone else have any other questions? No. Does anyone need a break at all, or do you want to go ahead?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah. Okay.
I just gotta grab a banana. Hold on.
Okay, go grab the banana. And what we'll do when Gina's back is have a refresh of our clarity, because we just did a whole lot of maths, and maths kind of jumbles my brain. So it's worth getting that clarity back in. But maybe while we're waiting for her, we can do some power posing again. Get the energy up. I might actually just stand up, because I've got a standing desk, so I can stand and do the power. I might stay standing. This is better.
That is so powerful, DJ.
It is, right? It makes you feel so good, right?
Yeah, I feel like, yeah.
Cool. Shall we do some long, deep breaths again together? Okay, so we're ready. Breathe in. And breathe out. And breathe in. And breathe out. And one more time, breathe in. And breathe out. Okay. We ready for more? Okay, let's do this. So we're going to go into types of paid online advertising. And like I said before, Google Ads is kind of my my big one. So that's where we're going to focus on the most. But before just a little bit more foundational knowledge is when we're talking about types of paid advertising, there are two different types. There's interruption advertising and there's search advertising. And so interruption advertising is when your ads appear in front of people when they're not actually looking for your product. And search advertising is when they're actively looking for your product and it appears in front of it. And it's an important classification to have, because the marketing has to be very different. And it's quite obvious that interruption marketing is much more difficult to do than search marketing, because when you're interrupting someone's flow, like as in a Facebook ad, you're asking them to take an action that they weren't already willing to take. While search advertising, they're actively looking for what you have to offer. All you have to do is make sure that you're the best option, right? So, and so you can also see then in terms of the funnel that interruption marketing makes a lot more sense for awareness stuff, and search marketing makes a lot more sense for consideration stuff. So if you segment your content according to interruption and according to the awareness and consideration, you can start to then apply different paid strategies for different parts of your funnel and different parts of your content. And it also makes it a lot more obvious than when perhaps some things aren't working for you. So, so yeah, I think I just talked about a lot of that without having the slide on. So yeah, so with interruption marketing, what you want to do with these awareness campaigns is that you're looking for a common correlation of interest, right? So the example I've given here is that vegans will have a love of animals, so you could easily target, if your product was like a pet product, you could easily target vegans and you'd probably get a good audience there. Right. And here, like on Facebook, there's options for people who just got engaged. And so if you offer bachelorette party services, then targeting people who just got engaged makes a whole lot of sense. Right. So this is the kind of thing that you want to do with the way you want to think about how you target people with interruption marketing. And like I was saying before, it's much harder to get a good direct ROI on interruption marketing. And so just as we were talking about before, you kind of shouldn't expect it. If you're planning to do interruption marketing, you should be willing to spend that money. If that money needs to have an ROI, interruption marketing is not a good way to go, right? A direct ROI. But it's part of that bigger funnel. But when it's search marketing, they know what they're looking for. And this can be any kind of search engine. Google is the biggest one, but there are other search engines. So there are other search marketing, and there might be more niche searches, like the Etsy search is a completely different search from an Amazon search, right? So just thinking about beyond Google, other search as well. And usually here you are able to get that acceptable ROI and kind of be aiming for it at the very least, if not going way under it. I mean, way under the maximum. Yeah, so like I was saying, that there's, you can have any search, is that Google has started to become a bit more saturated with ads and people are using a lot more. So sometimes it does actually make more sense to look at less saturated platforms, different, more niche search platforms if you're struggling to get the ROI from Google. The other kind of fundamental thing I want to talk about is remarketing and or what might be called retargeting or personalized ads. And this is a bit that becomes a little iffy with a lot of people, in that what this the basic fundamental of what this is that it's when you have an audience that you can target based on the interest profile. So it's usually like the interruption marketing is usually where you'll find this. And it's the advertising platforms will have created an interest profile. So most people who understand Facebook understand what this means, and that Facebook knows the kind of things you're interested in, and therefore allows advertisers to advertise on that. So you can also use this to make a search platform into interruption marketing, right? So for Google, they will have audiences based on interests. And so it's very important to be clear that just because you're advertising on the Google Ads platform doesn't mean it's all search marketing. There is interruption marketing in the Google ad platform where you target an audience type rather than what they're searching. But those ads won't go on the search engine page, because obviously that's the search, but there's other bits of Google Ads which I will talk about, which allows you to do this interruption marketing. An important thing to know about remarketing is that people are becoming more and more aware of this, and more than ever. And so people have ad blockers. So sometimes your interruption marketing just won't work because people are blocking ads because they don't want it, or they're blocking their cookies. And so their interests are not relevant. They don't know what their interests are. So this is going to be the fun part of this, is to talk about ethics. And I think I had to include this because it's a big part of my marketing practice, in that I like to discuss the ethics of our marketing. And when it comes to paid advertising, it's one of the most controversial and interesting parts to talk about marketing ethics. So what I've put here is a bunch of things that I think produce interesting talking points around the ethics of remarketing and the ethics of interruption marketing, really, in general. And if there was a bigger group, I'd put us all into breakout rooms to discuss in groups of 3 or 4, but there's only a few of us here. So for just 5 minutes, let's talk about some of these. Maybe choose one of these and let me know what you think about it. And we can have a little discussion around it. So does anyone want to choose one of these, or even one of these that you see and you don't quite know a lot about? Feel free to say that you don't know about it a lot about it, and I can talk about it.
So just question, DJ. So when someone searches your business name, like the exact name, and then they get ads from, say, Booking.com, offering the same services, but obviously just through a third party, is that just interruption ads? Would you say they?
I would say that's still, yeah, that's interesting. I never really thought about that one, but because it's still search, because they're still searching for the thing. So if they've typed in your brand, we still know that person is searching for your product, right? And your brand specifically. So it's not interruption marketing in the way that they're not looking at something completely different and you're interrupting their flow. They're looking for the product. And if you put an ad on that, then what you're trying to do is show yourself as better than the competitors in that space. And that's kind of where the search marketing thought needs to be when you're writing those ads, is how do I show myself as better than anyone else when they're looking for this thing? But it is kind of on the line.
Sorry, yeah. And that relates to your ethics for independent business versus big corporate power, because, for example, that's a huge thing in the hotel industry, where, even if it's the name of your hotel and you might be the first site on there, people will automatically click on Booking.com or Expedia or Agoda, and they can afford to give, the 5-10% slightly cheaper prices than what you offer, because they offer booking services for over thousands of hotels, so they can move that discount, and make up the profit margin whenever they feel like it. And yeah, it's what can you do about that?
Yeah, I think that's a massive problem with the paid advertising, is because not only can they advertise on your thing, they can bid higher than you, they can offer lower prices like you've said, and they've got more people working on it to pay attention to when you make changes so that they make changes as well. It's
well, exactly. We've got one person who's constantly watching it, like every hour, to see, to try and drop our rates so that we can either price match, or if we can go a little bit lower, then we can. But when they go home, and we're all not out of the office, obviously you've got huge teams for Booking.com that are on it 24/7. So it's just, it's really bad.
With that particular case as well, they will have paid to develop algorithms that do it, so there's AI that's you'll never be able to beat the AI, so and I think there's a lot to be said with the ethics here of the platform. The platforms are not protecting independent business as much as they should be.
Yeah.
No.
I was going to mention that that it's too big a subject, and it probably even contradicts the purpose of the very seminar we are attending now. So it's probably irrelevant to go in that direction. But platform culture, it's a very ethical challenge these days, and I'm reading about it. I'm reading this book by Gerd Loving, which is called Sad by Design, and it questions the very idea that sort of like the internet as we know it has ceased to exist as a place of freedom and roaming and exploring and discovering, and it's become, we are always on a platform. We are now on a platform, so it's platform life. I mean, the ethics challenge can be extended to our very presence in them, but I think it's completely irrelevant to try to sell things. So I thought I would say, shut up and not mention that, but it has, what to do with that. It's the way we live now, isn't it? How to change, the ethical question is how to change the design to make it aligned with the idea you just mentioned, that we will never be able to beat AI, and we will never be able to beat an algorithm. I mean, that discussion is past. We crossed that border already, and we know a robot, an algorithm is better than us intelligently, mathematically. I mean, what you struggled with 10 minutes ago would be something unthinkable for an algorithm. So what do we do with that in terms of still having these even sort of, reptilian ape brains that are not going to change? They are what they are by design, and we are against our own design, AI. Yeah, what do you stand in that? There is an ethical, I mean, there is this documentary. Have you guys watched that documentary? The Social Dilemma?
Yeah.
You haven't? Okay, well, it's very interesting.
I have.
You have?
Yeah.
Okay, well,
yeah.
The repetitive Silicon Valley guys who now don't want their children to use a tablet.
That's quite funny because we're going through foster caring training, and that after watching that was one of the first things I asked the foster care supervisor, and it's still a completely gray area for them. So you have the guardianship, but at the same time, are you able to take away their phone, or what's the deal? Like, because and it's still a gray area for so many things, not just advertising. It's kind of scary. It's really scary, actually.
Yeah.
I guess one of my questions is well, paying for advertising is I guess something that's been happening for a very long time, and you can only influence how you actually do it rather than anybody else. So as long as yes, you are going to be up against probably unethical people. I mean, I don't know whether there's kind of like content sort of rules or whatever as in terms of what you can actually advertise for, i.e. like comparison advertising, or so I guess it's kind of like you can only influence what you can actually put up there, and yes, it's probably not a level playing field. But maybe if you're not in it then at all, then you're not able to kind of even try to capture your potential customers. But
just from my own experience as well, these big corporate companies, so they'll sell your service as a third-party site, but then they'll put their own terms and conditions on it, and we find that a lot of people who do go through them don't know that. So they try and contact you, say, especially with COVID, how you had all these cancellations for holidays. It's like, well, you booked a non-refundable booking with booking.com. And with these non-refundable bookings, we can't price match them. They're super cheap. They get a special allotment from us. It's all pre-calculated. So when the guests when the guests call us up and we say, well, actually, you'll need to contact booking.com because this is a non-refundable booking. It's all been prepaid and, you know, it's quite complicated. And then booking.com will turn the customer back towards us and say, oh, well, okay, well, tell them that you've spoken with us and then see if they'll give you your money, you know, if they'll agree to a non-refundable booking. But that just also means that we lose our allotment in a way, like we lose money from it, and not booking.com of how it's gone through, because we've given them this set allotment for it, but yet now they're turning the tables on us and saying we don't want that allotment anymore because the guest is upset. And then most of the time we get the abuse from the guests, and it's just like, you know.
So it's mainly because the guests kind of don't see booking.com as that's who they've purchased from. They see basically the end result is like you, therefore, you know, we're gonna sort of, we don't make that link.
And this is a big like ethical discussion as well around like I think it's happening a lot in America at the moment as well, because Elizabeth Warren wanted to break up the monopolies, right? And that's essentially what it is about. It's also kind of cutting into GDPR and privacy regulations. It's about clarity of communication and clarity of making sure that the customer knows what they're doing and is consenting to buying this thing from this person and not from something else that they think they're buying it from. And that kind of comes into the Cambridge Analytica bit as well, of like the consent of what is being shown to us, what is being advertised to us, and what we're clicking on, and whether that's valid or not. It's super interesting, and we could talk about this for hours. But I think those bits were great. Thank you. I want to do more and more about this ethical stuff, because it's big conversations that and they need to be happening now. But let's get back to what we're here to learn, which is about paid online advertising. But I wanted to do the ethical bit first to make sure that we've got in our minds that, like, kind of what Tara said as well, that even that the fact that there are unethical things that clearly happen on these platforms, if you're going to use it, make sure at least you're looking at your own ethics and the way that you're practicing it to try and do it at the best level you can. So when we're looking at paid online advertising, there's 4 big areas that I group them under, and which most people group them under: social, paid search, native, and niche and display. And so, and some places might group together native and display, and they kind of cross over a bit, and I'll explain that in a sec. But I'll start with the easy ones that most people already know. So social, you know, you've got Facebook ads, you've got Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, YouTube, and then the newer ones, Snapchat and TikTok. And obviously each of them have different audiences, each of them have different styles, different content types, and all of it is interruption marketing. Any kind of paid advertising on any social media is all interruption marketing, because you literally, well, actually that's not true. So YouTube might be the only one that's slightly a bit more search marketing, mainly because people do actually use YouTube as a search engine. But the vast majority of the ads that are going on there are ads on a thing that's related to the topic of that video. So it's still really interruption. Paid search is things like Google ads, and we've got Microsoft advertising, and Ecosia is if you haven't heard of it, it's a search engine that plants trees for every search that happens, and it's got minimal tracking and stuff. It's all of that. But I've put it next to Microsoft advertising because Ecosia doesn't have its own advertising platform. It advertises through Microsoft advertising, which used to be called Bing ads, you know, because it Bing's the search, but Microsoft changed it to Microsoft advertising because it needed to copy Google. And but also because it became more than just Bing. Right, it's so now you can advertise in the display, and then you get into Ecosia. And I particularly put it in here because obviously a lot of the people I'm talking to are social enterprises, so that actually kind of makes sense as a platform to look at. But then you've got Baidu, which is the China one, Yahoo, Google Shopping, and Amazon it's a whole other platform, and a whole, like, that's kind of e-commerce. And when you go into e-commerce, there's so many other niche platforms. Now, the native and display. So I've put these as distinct. And when I talk about native, what I'm talking about is actually on a website itself, directly advertising with them and doing like editorial content with them, or getting them to sell your products through affiliate advertising, which means that they post about your products, they put a particular link. When those people click that link, you have a program that means that that person gets a kickback for every sale, right? And to me, this is the native bit, because you're working directly with a website or a blogger or whatever to advertise on their platform. You're not using one of the Google search or whatever to do that. When you're using Google search or Facebook audiences or the Microsoft display, I call these display networks. And this is where you can use, in the Google Ads platform, you can target an audience and put display ads. And the display ads are like, you know, when you're on a website and you see like a banner or you see like a square, and those are ads, those are what are called display ads. And Google has made it very, very easy to do these display ads. You can just upload a few like pictures and logos and it will just make the ads for you, or you can customize the ads to all the different shapes that are standard. The Ecosia advertising, it's kind of, that's done through the Microsoft Display Network. You can choose like particular websites that you want it to go on, and so you can choose Ecosia and like eliminate all the others. And the last item on there is Taboola and Outbrain, which are kind of like directly, they market themselves as native advertising, right? But they are actually more like display networks. But you can get things like sponsored posts and editorial advertising through Taboola and Outbrain. Though I will admit that I don't have huge experience with using those ones. So instead of kind of like diving into all of them, I decided to put this slide up. And I think what makes more sense is that I then ask you guys, which of these channels, these are the channels that I could probably say something about, but I will just preface this with, I've never done Amazon ads. I kind of know them intellectually rather than practically. Same with like Baidu and Yahoo. And even Ecosia and stuff. It's more like an intellectual knowledge that I have. With social, I've never gotten them to give me a good ROI on any platform. So I would take all of my advice on that with a pinch of salt. But you know, I've read a lot about what other people are doing, and the main things with social is that e-commerce is kind of the only thing I've seen ever anyone saying works well on social is e-commerce, or if you're literally just doing awareness campaigns, like, because, and then you're not looking at an ROI anyway. So you can kind of, it's easy to be like, oh yes, we had a successful advertising campaign, when you're not really looking for an ROI because you're like, it got to this many people, haha. But like, what's the result? I don't know. And then with native and stuff, I've done a bit, not so much affiliate advertising. And with the display networks, I've used Google extensively. And Facebook I find is crap, to be honest, but other people might get it to work. So that's kind of where my expertise is. Do you guys want to ask me about any particular channels on here that you want me to rattle off advice about before we deep dive into Google Ads?
Do you have any experience at all on Instagram?
Oh yeah, I was about to mention that. Yeah.
So
but the reason why I asked this is again, the person that I'm working with is kind of built up quite a big following on Instagram. Therefore, it seems the easiest way to kind of connect initially.
Yeah. Okay, so Instagram is quite an interesting and important one, because Instagram as a platform, you can't have links, so except in your profile, and because you're really, it's a bit like TikTok, where you've got this captive audience on your post, because the way you scroll is kind of like a post at a time. You know, where Facebook, you've kind of got a bit more room on your Facebook feed, and Twitter is just madness. So Instagram has been so effective for so many people, and not just for e-commerce, but you do Instagram ads through the Facebook ads platform, and the Facebook ads platform is an absolute fucking mess at the moment. It's just, it's so Like I tried to set up my own ads, and this is from someone who knows this platform well. And it kept bouncing me around between ad manager and business manager and blah, blah, blah. So just be prepared to spend a little bit of time like figuring out how the platform works. If you're going to go for it, just make sure it's not an easy, oh, click a button and set up my ads. There's a little bit of learning curve there. And then the ads themselves, so they can be so effective because you can put direct links in the ads, and Instagram have this, and you might have seen them around if you're an Instagram person, that now ads, you can also they work very, very well for e-commerce. Like Instagram is a great place for selling clothes and stuff like that, and you can now add product like circles onto your ad, so then when people press the circle, it like takes them directly to that product that's in the picture. So you can they're getting more and more what's called complex with how they do it, and but it's also more and more effective. And so it is a good place to do some trialing and testing, especially if you've got a big audience there already. You know that your audience is on that platform somewhere. Also, what's important with that is that you could very effectively use your audience to remarket really strongly, right? So you can, for that loyalty level of the funnel, you can add ads at the loyalty level by creating really great ads that are designed for people who already know who you are. And Instagram's a great place for that because they're already familiar with your brand. Even if they see an ad from you, they're not mad at it. Right? Well, a lot of people, they see an ad for a thing that they don't know about, they're kind of mad at it, and you kind of have to convince them to be okay with it. So so I would say that it's a good thing to do is set up remarketing. Yeah, I think that's, do you have any other like questions on Instagram that I could answer?
Not really. I mean, I need to kind of like have a little play around with it myself. So, but yeah, no, that's I like the the pointing out of the like, particularly being able to go to direct kind of pages in terms of like products and that type of thing. So yeah, definitely worth to keep in mind. Thank you.
What's TikTok?
So TikTok is the new kid on the street that's taken the world by storm, so to speak. It was semi-popular before COVID, but mostly with the younger generations. And since COVID happened, there's all sorts of people on there now, and it's been interesting because I've been on TikTok just as like an intellectual exercise to just be aware of what it is and how it works and how trends work on there. And it moves at lightning speed. It's just like a trend that was popular like a few weeks ago is old news now. Or even a trend that was popular last week is kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, we're doing that already. So it's one of those things that I think if you're gonna do TikTok, you do need to have someone who's on it and knows TikTok, loves TikTok, uses it a lot, because they need to be inside that space to make it work for you. Because I have also seen ads on TikTok that are clearly designed by like some millennial who just knows that TikTok's important but doesn't quite get it properly, and is just like created this ad, and you're like, oh, well, I can see what you're trying to do. It's just like those kids are not going to fall for this, So and it's all video content. It's snippets of like 30 seconds videos maximum. I think you can do longer videos if you like upload a video or something, but people aren't there to watch long videos. They're there to watch small things. They're there to watch things that are like really interesting, like quick satisfaction, and like funny, and not informative. Well, that's not true. So I've seen some that are things like good stretches to have and stuff like that. So more like there is some informative content, but it has to be delivered in this very like engaging way. So you need a very good performer to be on there, and to me it's going to be quite a lot of work for anyone in a small business to get TikTok to work, unless they're a TikTok person. They're already creating content for TikTok. If you're like trying to use it to get to the kids, like you're going to have to hire someone who's on TikTok. I don't think you're going to do it successfully as a data-driven marketer, but there are ads, and like be very wary of that. There are tons and tons of Facebook ads that are scams to try and get you TikTok credit. at the moment. Like I've seen at least like 3 or 4 in like the last 3 days, where it's like it pretends to be the TikTok for Business website, but it's like some other URL. And it's like, you can get $3,000 in free credit. And so just be wary of that. There is free credit, I think, that TikTok does give, but look for the official TikTok for Business website, and not don't click on a Facebook ad. Is that a decent enough summary for you, or was there anything in particular you wanted to know about TikTok?
I just wasn't sure what exactly it was, but yeah, that's fine.
It's a bit like Vines, if you remember from years ago. Do you remember Vines? No? They're basically like short videos, and they're like basically long. I call them long form GIFs. But
there's a lot. If you're on Instagram, then I think, well, Instagram now do Reels, I think, is the Instagram specific thing. But also quite a few people, if you ever go into this like the search thing, quite a few people have kind of reposted, I think, TikTok videos, and it's kind of like branded as TikTok in the, like the video content. But yeah.
Basically Facebook now
videos
as well. I think there's a lot of repurposing of content from things. Like there's some funny stuff on TikTok, I will say that. I get addicted to it sometimes, but
it's a huge time sink.
Because there's a lot of crap, and you kind of like have to watch through the crap before you get to the good ones, and then you're like, but the next one could be a good one. Okay, cool.
The only exposure I've had to TikTok was just on the news.
Cool. Okay, so I think that we'll wrap that up there. If there are more specific things you want to know on channels that are not Google Ads, feel free to contact me later. But let's talk about Google Ads, because I've got 20 minutes to get through Google Ads, and there's a lot, right? So Google Ads. So first, it's kind of like why Google and why I'm good at Google, and it's because Google is the biggest. It is where everyone is looking for stuff. In 2020, they started with a market share, 70.38% on desktop. But interestingly, from the information, there will be a link at the bottom of the slide. The information that was there was saying that Bing has gained 5% market share since last year. So that does kind of indicate that even though Google is vast majority, it's all, what I was saying before about maybe if you're struggling to get it on Google, you may want to look at the less saturated platforms to see whether you can get success. And what was interesting when I looked at the data as well, though, is that from this article I was looking at, was that the most of the clicks come from organic, though. So you're actually much better off investing in trying to figure out the best way to make your content the best it can be for the Google search, because people understand ads. They're labeled, the ads are clearly labeled. So people are going for organic much more than they are for paid. But that's not to say that paid is bad, because in the end, people don't scroll past the first few entries on Google. So they will probably see your ad. Even if they ignore it, they will see it, even if they go down to the organic, but they stay up there at the top, right? So so this is just an example vegan food box search to show you that when there's enough ads, when you search, this whole thing is ads. There's the first organic is right at the bottom there. So so even if people are skipping it, they're gonna see the ad, right? The Google has done that. So you can also view this a little bit like an awareness thing, in that, like, even if people aren't clicking on paid ads, when someone types in vegan food boxes, they're seeing these brands, and it's always going to be in their head like, oh, I've seen that brand before, right? So that's the thing. The other important thing about Google, which won't be relevant to you guys, but might be relevant on the actual one I do, is that charities get $10,000 per month to spend on Google Ads. Like, there are some conditions where you have to maintain a high click-through rate and stuff like that. But one of the charities I work with it's got this now, and it's a great way for them to be able to play with it. Oh, look, I did the animations wrong here. So what I'm moving on now to is structuring your Google Ads and the way that Google Ads is laid out, right? And so you start with the campaign level. Let me just write down that I need to adjust this slide. Structure. So you start with the campaign level. That's the top level of structure in a Google Ads campaign. And then you have ad groups within a campaign. And then you have ads within those ad groups. And so what I would say, and how I would, and there's different schools of thought when it comes to how you arrange these ad groups and campaigns, and whether you put like so there what was quite old school Google Ads methodology was that every ad group should be an individual keyword, right? And then you have different keyword types that Google has. So there's like a broad match and phrase match and exact match, and there's just different ways that they do it. I'll explain that in a little bit, but you don't have to know that right now. You only learn that when you're doing it. But old school structuring is that each ad group is an individual keyword, right? But nowadays, the Google Ads have increased their AI and everything. So it doesn't make sense anymore to have these individual ad groups for these keywords, because the reason that you would do that before was that you then have very tight control over those keywords and how much you're paying for each keyword. Now, Google actually sees keywords that are similar as a keyword cloud, and it will actually more often than not show your ads when it's trying to interpret what the person is searching for and show your ad according to what, like Google's entire purpose is to try and make sure that the person searching is finding what they're looking for. Its algorithm is starting to better understand things like syntax and grammar, so that it can actually know what you're actively searching for, even if you haven't typed in the exact right keyword. So now it's better to group your keywords into keyword clouds and use your ad groups for different keyword clouds. And that way your ad is relevant to all of those keywords in that cloud. I think I do an example. Did I do an example? No. I thought I'd done an example. Okay.
When you say keyword clouds, do you mean like synonyms, or is it something else?
Hang on, let me just check, because I'm sure I did an example. Oh, I did not. Okay, so what I was doing, so yes, I will cover that because I thought I'd done an example, but clearly I did not. Let me share this again. So I mean, similar words. So let's say, going back to the vegan box example, you might have an ad group that is vegan boxes in London, right? And then you would have keywords in there that were vegan box delivery London, vegan box London organic, and well, maybe not organic, maybe organic's a separate cloud, vegan box delivery to my door, and boxes that have vegan food, you know, and then you might have another keyword cloud that's organic veg boxes, and then you have organic veg boxes delivery to the door, and so on, right? But the you don't have to kind of conjure this up yourself. There's a keyword planner in the Google Ads platform that helps you identify keywords that are similar, and it will automatically offer you groups of keywords to use. But the point being here that I think the big takeaway that I want to give you is that you might, when you're looking at building your Google Ads, you might hear people say that every ad group should be individual keywords, but this is old school thinking, and it is a remnant of when Google Ads didn't have good AI. But the AI has gotten a lot better, so you no longer need to have that kind of structure. Right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to, at each level from campaign, ad group to ad level, just go through. And so this is going to be a little bit heavy because I realize that the presentation is getting a bit long. So what I'm going to do is just run through like literally just a list of ways to optimize these things. And these are going to be all on the slides, so that if the purpose here is not necessarily for you to absorb all of this right now, but it's more so that I can go through it, and then you'll have the slides to look at if you're considering Google Ads at a later date, right? So, and all of these optimization things are built from a document that I created in my old job where it was from working with a bunch of clients, and the kind of things I would look at when someone said, we want you to take a look at our Google ads and give us comments on how to improve it if we can, right? So the first thing is that if any of the campaigns are limited by budget, then you need to review the budget and the bid strategy. It's not often you just raise the budget when it's limited by budget, because sometimes the bid strategy is the problem, and it usually comes into play. That usually comes into play if you're getting conversions, but the cost per click is really high, right? So if your cost per click is really high, then the bidding strategy might be wrong. So you need to learn about bid strategies if you're going to optimize anything with Google. And God, talking about bid strategies could be a whole presentation in itself, but basically, but the thing about it is that there's now AI doing it. So generally you can just choose the bid strategy and it will do everything for you. So maximize conversions, maximize clicks, enhance CPC. These are the big ones, and they'll usually be automatically selected now because Google's trying to make it easier for people to understand this stuff or not have to understand this stuff. Conversions. So conversions are tracked in Google AdWords in a similar way to they're done in Google Analytics. And actually, if you've got Google Analytics already set up with all your conversions, then you can import those conversions into Google Analytics. But what's very, very important in Google Ads is that you don't just import all your conversions. You import the conversions that matter to the ads that you're doing, because the Google Ads platform will optimize the campaigns according to the conversions that you've set for it to look at. And this gets more granular, where you can import conversions, but you can tell Google AdWords not to use those conversions for optimization. But generally, it just makes more sense to just import the ones that you actually want to use. Device segmentation. So what I mean here is that you should consider whether you separate out campaigns for when your customers are on mobile or on desktop, right? And that you might want to have separate campaigns if you want to have a bit more control over how much you're paying on different platforms. And you can usually see some of that data. If you've got Google Analytics already set up, you can see some data on your existing Google Analytics to see whether you need to have this kind of adjustment. You can also just put bid adjustments within a campaign for different devices, so you don't need to have actually separate campaigns. But either way, you should probably consider whether there is a separation that needs to happen there. Then the other big thing, or another really big thing for looking at optimizing campaigns that have been running, so this is not at the start, but ones that have been running, is location and ad scheduling, which you'll only be able to do once you've got data. At the start, though, even when you've not been running it, make sure you've added ad extensions. These are things that when you do a search on Google and sometimes you see underneath an ad, there are there's a bit more information. There might be links to their page, or there might be a phone number, or there might be book a table. These are all called ad extensions, and there are a whole lot of them, and you can go in there and take a look, and you should add whichever ones are relevant to your business. And the best practice is always have a remarketing campaign set up. And so this should be we were talking about the display advertising and the remarketing. I think every Google Ads account should have a remarketing campaign set up that's retargeting all of the people who have clicked on your ads before, because if they've clicked on your ads, they're obviously interested. So if you're appearing in lots of other places, then it really does impact the overall marketing. And the final step, and this is a step you do at every level of optimization on Google Ads, is comparing your cost per clicks against that maximum cost per acquisition that we were talking about. So when you've worked out how much you can afford to pay for a click, then you should be, every time you sit down to optimize your Google Ads, you should be looking at what are the cost per clicks at the moment? Are they too high? Are they too low? And if they're acceptable, then increasing your budget on that campaign kind of makes sense, because you want to try and get more leads out of it. But it's not always that easy, as I explained before. So then at ad group level, we're talking about keyword match types. So this is what I talked about just now, where people try and separate out the ad groups so that they're individual keywords, and then they have the different types. So just to really quickly go over what these types mean, is that exact match is about when it's the term that you've put there is exactly what they've typed in. Google has annoyingly done this thing now, because of what I was saying about understanding syntax and all of that, that the exact match is no longer exact. It's like exact with very slight variations is what it says. So so something like vegan boxes London will be triggered even if they type in vegan boxes in London, right? Because it's a slight variation. Or vegan boxes in LDN, because Google knows that they mean London, right? So so there'll be that. So it's become a little bit more blurry between exact match and what they call phrase match now, because phrase match is that when you put in the things within the quote marks for the phrase match, it will trigger for any search that has that phrase and then anything on either side of it, right? But that phrase in the middle. So that's where the exact match and phrase match start to become a little blurry. And then you've got broad match, right? And broad match means that any of those words, it will trigger the search. So if you type in vegan boxes in London, it will trigger for a search where it says vegan hats in Croydon, you know, because the word vegan is in there. Modified broad match is when you put a little plus sign in front of each of the words. And what that's saying is any of those words can trigger, but all of them have to be there, right? So, sorry, so they all have to be there, but in any order, right? So if you put vegan boxes in London with pluses in front of all of them, then someone who types in boxes in Croydon that have organic vegetables for vegans will trigger the broad match modified. Does that make sense? So I understand that's kind of a bit to absorb, but basically the big takeaway here at ad group level, you need to look at that there are the different keyword match types, and especially that it's not just broad match, because if you just put in broad match, most likely you are going to waste money. Negative keywords. So what this means is that you've put in a keyword list of words that you say that if this keyword is included, please do not show this ad. And so a very common example is the word free, right? Because people don't want to be advertising to people who are looking for the free version of this thing that you're doing. But there might be things also like, you know, like one of my clients does cooking classes led by refugees, but then there's a keyword that's like cooking classes for kids. And they're like, well, we don't really offer it to kids. So you want to minus kid, right? So that's really important. And there's something called a search term report. The search term report is where you get a report of the things that people actually typed in that triggered your ads. So then you can review that report and see which things have been triggering your ads and which ones are completely irrelevant to what you're doing, because there might have been things that you didn't think about, right, that are triggering the ads. So that's a good place to find your negative keywords. It's also a good way to find new keywords to actively target and control the bids on. Ad structure. So talking about those ad groups and the keyword clouds, you can also do keyword clouds according to like location specific ones. So you could have a keyword cloud that's around London, and then a keyword cloud that's around, you know, Highgate and, you know, Manchester, whatever. And then, or you can have generic ad groups. So you can be like vegan boxes as opposed to vegan boxes in London, right? And what from my experience, it made sense to kind of segment some of these out, but this becomes very different across different businesses, because it really depends on your product and what you're offering, where you're offering it to, and whether the location even makes sense as a thing to advertise on. And there may be other ways you do your ad structure that's more to do with the product than location or generic. Yes, so also then awareness versus conversion keywords. So so a really good example of this might be, I didn't think of a good example of this. Let's go back to the vegan boxes, right? So awareness might be like, if people are looking like or let's just talk about more like vegan food, right? And it's like, so awareness thing might be like, is vegan food healthy for you? That's more of an awareness thing, right? And you might want to run ads on, is vegan food good for you, to a blog post on your website that talks about how good vegan food is or how bad vegan food is. And so those are different from the campaigns where you're running, you know, because you buy vegan food in London, you know, so so that's an important thing to distinguish, because that needs to be distinguished at ad group level, because the ads will obviously have to be different for those different keywords. Comparison of, yes, so again, this is the same thing that the end of the campaign list was comparing, basically getting your ROI, making sure that your max CPCs, because you can check your cost per click at every level, right? Over that whole campaign, what's the cost per click? At each ad group, what's the cost per click? And comparing it to your cost per acquisition to make sure that it's reasonable. We're nearly there, don't worry. Ad level. Best practice is to have at least 2 ads, because if you only have 1, then you're not really testing anything. So you should be testing different headlines, different descriptions, but have at least 2, because you want the platform to try and improve your reach as well by having better copy. Make sure that you've put the keywords that are in that ad group somewhere in your ad. And there's something called dynamic keywords. What this means is you put these little curly brackets, and it will replace that with the keyword that the person has searched, as long as it fits into the ad. And if it doesn't fit into the ad, then whatever you've put between the curly brackets will be what appears. Right, so let's say we'll go back to the vegan food boxes. We go like, buy your, and then I put like little curly things, vegan food boxes in London, right? And then if that ad group has vegan food boxes in London as the keyword, and it's like broad match modified, and someone types in like I don't know, just vegan food boxes, then it might be buy your vegan food boxes. Right, and why this is important is that when you might know from when you search that the things you've searched for gets bolded in the text, right? So it'll just add to the emphasis on your ad. So this is where we're going back to the remember the quality score that we talked about in the bidding system. So the landing page experience is an actual metric on the Google Ads platform. It doesn't give you a number. It gives you below average or good, right? I don't know. There might be a poor as well. I'm not sure. But basically, if it's below average, then you need to review your landing page and make sure that those ads are relevant to the landing page. The keywords that you're advertising on are in that landing page, that, you know, there's a call to action, blah, blah, blah. Google knows a lot more about your page than you think. Right, so just making the general rule of thumb is make sure the page works for the human, right? It's less about making sure it's technically correct. It's make sure that there's a good experience when they land, and usually you'll be fine. There might be some few technical things, but generally, just make sure it works, and that it's the offer is consistent. And so this next point of making an offer is a really great way to optimize your ads. Instead of just being like Southern Cross Atrium Apartments, it's like, get your second stay for 10% off at Southern Cross Atrium Apartments. You know, it's like, give them a reason to click, but also make sure that if they're clicking on that, like if you're saying book your second stay for 10% off, and then they click on that, they go to your homepage, and your homepage doesn't say anywhere on it that there's second stay 10% off, then you're creating a bad experience, right? So make sure that the landing page they're landing on has that offer on it. And then you've got, well-crafted ad copy, right? So there's that again, could be an entire presentation in itself. And I did want to do this, but I realize we're at 2 hours now. So do you guys want me to go through the tips for writing better ad copy, or should I skip it? Like, it's all on there, right? So you'll get the slides. Do you want me to go through it, or? Yes, you need to go. give me a thumbs up if you're good.
Yeah, I will need to go, but if I can just get a list of them, that would be fantastic later.
Yeah, the slide has the list of it, because I was very aware as I was building this. I'm like, this is going to take too long. so I've built it so that I could just send it through to you.
Yeah, that's fine. I think I'm going to have to go now, but maybe if I can grab it later. But thank you so much.
Thank you, Tara. See you
Thank
later.
you.
So I'll go through this real quickly now. So obviously trying to write it as specific as possible to the ad group, making sure that you highlight your USP, which I talked about in the content bit. The instructive language. So this is really important in ads specifically. Make sure you're using the call to actions, click, call, book, get, use those words. They might sound salesy and annoying, but they work because people need instruction on the internet. Looking at competitor ads, so this is one thing that was quite interesting to look at when I was working on this stuff, was that sometimes my bosses always were like, look at what the competitors are doing, just copy their ad. I'm like, if you copy their ad, we look exactly the same on the page. It doesn't, and we tried it. We did, because he was like, well, just try it. So we did it, and it was crap. Like, it absolutely did not work. So the thing is, you need to make sure that you're different and you're better. Right? You're better than what they're doing. Make a better offer, make a stronger offer. Show that you're better with more awards or more whatever, right? And these are kind of some of the little tricks, using numbers and symbols just in terms of catching the eye to try and make them stand out a bit more. Also making sure that when you're writing it, you're not giving everything away, right? You're creating a little bit of mystery. Give them a reason to click, give them a reason to find out more. Right, and that's kind of copywriting stuff that there's lots of ways to do that. Questions are also great. Everyone loves questions, and it also adds a question mark tool. And use, there's very standard effective headline formulas now. That you just go on BuzzFeed and you'll see all of the headline formulas being used, lists and how to's, like 5 ways to blah blah blah. 10 ways to blah, blah, blah. And then there's, these are my go-to writing formulas. So the problem, promise, proof is the one I use the most, where you say, define the problem, show how you're solving the problem, the promise you're giving them, and show that you can actually solve that problem. You've got proof. The proof can come in, that we have accreditation, that other people have done it, that we have awards that we've won, and that sort of thing. The pain, agitate, solution formula is one that I have seen before. That's really good for like short copy that goes on social media. The first thing you write is something that pushes on a pain point, and then you make that pain point a little bit worse, and then you offer your solution. So as an example of that might be like, vegan food boxes are really hard to find, and they never get delivered at the time that you want. Get the first vegan box that you get to choose your delivery date, or like, I mean, something like that, right? So, and then what I wanted to end on is that Google Ads is not just search. Like, obviously all of that I've talked about is search, but we've talked about the Google Display Network, but there's also Google Shopping, which if you remember, I showed you that vegan food search, all of those boxes on the side, that was all ads. Those are all Google Shopping ads, right? So if you're e-commerce, Google Shopping is definitely a thing you want to look at. And YouTube ads are done through the Google Ads platform. So your video ads will all be done on Google Ads as well. So originally I was going to say, we'll look back at your funnel, and maybe you want to spend some time looking at what you wrote at the start. And now that you know a little bit more about different bits of paid advertising, maybe it's changed, maybe it hasn't. But obviously we've run out of time. So there's your end of presentation treat with the puppy, to make you feel better about all of that list of information. And that's it. So end on the puppy. So do you guys have any other questions you want to cover before we log off? Being aware that I realize I've held you for 2 hours already. Anything else?
All good.
Awesome. Well, if you do have any questions anyway, I'm always available. You guys all have my email address, or you have me on Facebook or whatever. So feel free to reach out if you need anything. And thank you so much for being my first guinea pigs.
Thanks, DJ.
Thanks.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for putting the time into this and inviting us.
Yeah.
Thanks. And if you have any feedback at all, I obviously super